Hey everybody, welcome back to the Off Track podcast. Today is going to be a little different. I'm running solo for the first segment, so we'll see how that goes. I finally got to golf for the first time since my second child was born. Didn't get any range sessions, no warm-ups. It was actually a very stressful endeavor getting to the course, but the results were honestly surprising. So I'll talk about how I prepped without touching a range and how that ended up working out. And that round also gave me the perfect chance to test out the $50 rangefinder Roy talked about in the last episode. So if you haven't seen or listened to that yet, check out episode 8, where we break down our favorite golf gifts at different price points. But before we jump in, today's episode is brought to you by Track Golf, the training system designed to help you practice like the pros. The Track Spray shows you exact strike patterns on turf or grass and unlocks drills you've never tried with alignment sticks. And the Blueprint brings structure and purpose into every session. Together, they take the guesswork out of practice so you actually improve faster. Learn more at trackgolf.com. That's TRAQ golf.com. I actually know someone who golfed like 2-3 days after their wife gave birth. His wife basically said, you can't breastfeed, you're useless, so just go play golf. And, he was happy to oblige. But I also know some people that weren't allowed to go golfing for like the first 4 or 5 months. So very lucky to have gone golfing just 1 month after my second was born. I'm also just lucky to have my mom around. She was here helping us. And so this ended up kind of becoming a early birthday round because my birthday is in the end of December and we're not going to have help around that time. So I think this was a go golf while you can because you're not going to be able to golf around your birthday. And typically when I golf, I like to get there at least 30 minutes before, hit the range, put on my sunscreen, and be able to walk up to the first tee calm and leisure, knowing exactly what I'm going to do. This round was not that. In typical LA fashion, there was a lot of traffic, a lot more traffic than I anticipated at around noon on a Friday afternoon. And it was because there was a huge accident. And so I was basically stuck in a standstill. So I was stressed because I was on pace, or at least in my mind, I was going to get there 20, 30 minutes before my tee time. And I'm not moving for 20, 30 minutes. I finally, had to call Roy, tell him, hey, I'm going to be about 10, 15 minutes late. And luckily the course allowed us to move our tee time back and let the group behind us go first. But yeah, it was not the ideal situation. I basically went in cold and surprisingly, I hit my drive straight. I pushed a little bit, but it landed right next to a tree. And so I had no shot. So I had to put my 3-wood upside down and hit it in a lefty stance. So started bogey. And then I hit a birdie on a par 5. And for me, par 5s, my goal is to basically hit par. Because I'm a long hitter, I feel like you should be able to at least get near the green with your second shot. And then you need to put a good chip and you're either putting for birdie or you're 2-putting and saving par. And so for par 5s, par is kind of my expectation. And I hit birdie. So I was extremely, extremely happy. And then I was just kind of on fire for the rest of the front 9. I had 2 birdies, including my second, which was on a 230-yard par 3. I hit my 5-wood, exactly 230. It was pin high, just about 3-4 feet to the right of the pin, which I sunk it in for a birdie. So yeah, I was +2 over the front 9. We only got to play until 14 and I ended up at +5. I came down to earth a little bit on the back 5, but yeah, overall it was a great round and it did 2 things for me. Well, actually 3 things. Number 1, it allowed me to play my second round with my new lap putter. It also allowed me to test out the $50 rangefinder. And then the last thing was, so I've been working on my footwork because I can't go to the range. I can't be, swinging golf clubs. I was really focusing on where should the pressure be at my feet? Where do I want to load? And as I fire, how do I want the weight transfer to look like? So my footwork was the only thing that I had been working on in the last 3-4 weeks. And I feel like that was my only swing thought. And for the most part, it's worked really, really well. So another part of your game that you don't really think about that much, but all your power really starts from the bottom up. And so being able to work on that footwork during this quote unquote off season of mine, I felt was really, really cool. And so hopefully I can dive a little bit deeper into that as well. But first, let's talk about the lab putter. It's given me, I think, a level of confidence that I really did not have before. And for those listeners that don't know, I previously played with a sick putter. It's the same putter that Bryson DeChambeau uses, and I putt arm lock. So it is a blade shaped putter. The nice thing about that putter is the descending loft technology. So no matter what your angle of attack is, the club face is supposed to have an optimal loft so that the ball rolls well. And I've never really had issues with speed, but because it is a blade, especially on short putts, it's weird, but on putts that are inside 5 feet, I've always struggled a little bit. I've actually preferred hitting like a 5-footer than like a 2-3-footer. And with the lab, that just completely changes because the face is so stable and there is no twisting of the face. For example, with the sick putter, I almost had to feel like I was closing the club face on purpose to keep it pointed at the target longer. Because if not, with the blade shape, I felt like the club face wanted to open. So according to my Garmin app, I hit 24 putts out of 14 holes. So that comes out to 1.71 putts per hole, which I guess it's very much what you would expect of a single handicap. But in the past, my number was a lot higher. It was definitely closer to like 1.9, almost 2 putts per hole. So in that short span, I feel like the lab putter so far in 2 rounds have shaved off a little bit of my strokes per holes. And that is definitely helped my score. Now, I am still struggling a little bit with lag putts. So there was 2 putts where I was putting uphill. One was on the green, but the other one was a little bit off the green. So I knew I had to put a little bit of oomph into the putt. And that is one of the downsides also of an arm lock because everything is so connected. If your body does something, especially with these lag putts a little differently, it's very easy to pull your putts. And I ended up pulling those 2 putts. So that is something that I still have to learn how to putt with. And one other thought that really helped me this time with distance control and speed control is I was watching a video of Tiger and he was saying that when he putts, he makes sure that he accelerates through the putt because the golf ball actually slows down your club head. And so that alone makes a lot of golfers, especially amateurs, hit shorter putts. So that was actually one of the things in my mind, because I had just seen that clip. So I was doing my best to not necessarily accelerate, but keep the same speed that I was going into the ball. And yeah, I feel like that worked out really well for me this round. So we'll see, how this kind of continues on in my next round. Who knows when that'll be? Probably in another month, maybe 2 months. But that is something that I plan on trying to keep in my head, and maybe when I'm practicing a few strokes at home, something that I will try to incorporate as well. But yeah, other than that, I am loving my DF3 so far. Now, I really like the feel of the lab insert, And I don't know if you guys saw, but over the weekend, I noticed that Sam Han, the CEO of Lab, actually has a Insert DF3. I am very looking forward to seeing if that is going to be available to the public. And for the DF3 owners out there, are they going to allow some sort of retrofitting to the existing putter to have those inserts? So because the lab putters are all made out of a one-piece aluminum face, I think a lot of the reaction that I've heard and I've also agree with is that the feel is a bit muted, soft, and yeah, the feedback is definitely a lot less than I have had from my previous putters. But in the versions, especially the Oz 1 with the inserts, I feel like you get a lot of that back. You get more of the traditional feel that you get in a putter back. So I am hoping that the inserts for the DF3 will be available to the public soon, and that for current DF3 owners that they are going to provide some sort of, I mean, it's definitely going to be an upcharge, but if they would allow there to be some sort of retrofitting to make those inserts available to current customers. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, let's talk a little bit about this $50 rangefinder Roy was talking about in episode 8. So in the previous episode, Roy asked me, hey, how do you feel about a $50 rangefinder? Because we had stocking stuffers that were at $50 value or less. And so he was wondering, would you give someone these rangefinders, or would you like receiving these rangefinders? And I know it didn't make the cut, but my reaction to Roy was, I don't know, like at that price point, especially when I'm used to my rangefinder being a premium rangefinder, it's $550 retail. I didn't pay that myself, but retail is $550. And even the budget rangefinders are around $125 to $200. And so when you think immediately a $50 rangefinder, your reaction is, what's the catch, right? And that's something that was in my mind. I was like, it had over 4-star review on Amazon, but I'm like, there is something that I feel I am getting the shorter end of the stick. So I actually purchased one of these, and the golf outing was perfect because I got to test it out on the course. So I will share a little bit about what I found. Well, first off, the most important thing a rangefinder has to do is get the number right. And I will say that I was honestly very surprised. The brand is Rivazri NK1000. And when I used this without the slope, it was usually within 1 to maximum 4 yards from my Bushnell. And the Bushnell that I use is the Bushnell Pro XE, which a lot of publications and testers considered at the time when it came out, I want to say 3-4 years ago, that this was the best rangefinder. This was the top of the line rangefinder. So you have this rangefinder that retails for $550, and then you find this one from Amazon for $50, a tenth of the price. Actually, it was even cheaper than that because it was Cyber Monday, and so it was on sale for $30. And it was basically 1 to 4 yards off, which to an amateur is really not going to make that big of a difference. So yeah, I was surprised. Now, the NK1000 comes with a little tab because it even has slope. So for $50 in slope, I was like, wow. And it has this audible click. I don't know if you can hear it. It definitely would have helped if Mo was using this rangefinder, because then he could have just said, hey, did you hear a click? No. And so I wasn't cheating. But these Bushnells, they're pretty soft. And so with the Bushnells, you can't really tell that there's a click. I'm putting it right up against the mic and turning the slope on and off, and you can hear a faint slide, but there's no click on here. So Yeah, maybe the Internet Invitational and future tournaments should be using the NK1000s with the very loud click. Um, but when it came to slope, this is where I feel like this one really showed its price. We had in that 230 yard par three, um, this unit was about 8 yards off using the slope, and there wasn't that much elevation difference. And in the shorter ones, again, it was between like 1 to 5 yards, even with slope. But the moment it got a little longer, I feel like for me, it was around 175 and longer, where the slope really started to make a difference between the NK1000 and the Bushnell that I have. Obviously, you also want a rangefinder that locks on quickly. And that is another area where the Bushnell is basically instant. There's a little bit of vibration, it locks on, done. Now, with the NK1000, it was definitely slower. It was taking about 2 to 3 seconds to grab the target. And occasionally I had to reshoot it 2, 3 times, but it wasn't slow enough that I was getting majorly annoyed, especially at the price point. So the speed was okay. And then when it came to the optics, that's where I noticed another huge difference between the price points. With the Bushnell, it was crystal clear. They advertised it as 7 times magnification. And at 230 yards, the flag was clear. I knew exactly where I was pointing and shooting. It also has a very bright red display that's easy to read, anywhere. The NK1000 advertises 6.5 magnification, but in that par three, it just didn't look very clear. And there was woods right behind it, and I had to shoot it up a couple times to make sure that it was capturing the flag and not the trees behind it, because it just wasn't quite clear. And also the display is kind of this grayish, just black display. And so depending on the background, it was sometimes getting a bit lost. Now, when it comes to build quality, the moment I picked this up, I was like, this feels like a toy. This actually feels like one of my daughter's toys. And the one that I actually had in mind was this guy right here. The moment that I weighed these two, they weighed almost identical. And also it's an all plastic body. And so it really, really feels like if my daughter had a toy rangefinder, this is what it would feel like. So obviously I haven't used it very long, but the biggest concern that I would have with this is just durability and how long is it going to last? Because yes, it is $50. If it breaks once a year and you have to get a new one, that's going to add up pretty quickly. Because with the Bushnells, I know friends that have had their Bushnells for over 15 years and nothing's wrong with it. Online, I did a check and I have people that were saying my Bushnell is 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. And so it's a one-time purchase and you're basically going to use it a lifetime for your entire golf journey. Unless, of course, if there is some sort of crazy feature that comes along, but I don't know how much more they can go in terms of features because the Pro XE already includes elevation, barometer, and all that. So I think that's basically a lifer for me. But yeah, if you're buying a $50 rangefinder and it's breaking every 1 year, 2 years, then that'll definitely add up. The one other thing that I was really surprised with this unit was that it came with a pretty sturdy case. And with my Bushnell, it came with such a flimsy case that I ended up not using this. I had to actually take this out of the box to show you guys. I luckily had a older hard case from Bushnell, which I end up using. But yeah, I mean, overall for a $50 rangefinder, if you are not using slope, then I don't think that 1 to 4 yards is that big of a difference. When it comes to slope and you're starting to get into that 8 to 10 yards difference, that could be a club difference for even an amateur. And so when it gets to that range, I would say, yes, that might impact your score. But For me, I want to be as exact as possible, even if I'm not hitting within a 10-foot radius every single time. It's about having that confidence and knowing exactly the yardage and knowing that it's right all the time provides a level of confidence that I just don't think I would have with this one. So should you ditch a 500 rangefinder for a $30 one? I'm not going to. But if you are a beginner golfer and if you are looking for a budget rangefinder, you don't really need slope or the places that you play are mostly flat. I actually don't think this kind of feels like one of those starter golf sets. It's one of those things that you're not going to use forever, but it will do the job until you know that you want to become a serious golfer and you want to upgrade on your equipment. I think this is very serviceable, and there's nothing wrong with getting one of these and using it early on. And lastly, I had a few people asking, what did you do at home? And so I just wanted to share a little bit about what my golf journey has been like with a child stuck at home because, he's not vaccinated, so I can't really go out. There's really been 3 things that I've been working on in my golf game. The first one is actually stretching. Not being able to golf has really allowed me to work on just my body. Instead of that typical range time that I would get, I would just go to the garage and use the resistance bands. Actually, there's this one exercise that surprisingly I saw in a hospital visit. And you basically just sit on your chair, you cross your leg, you put your elbow on where your knee is supposed to be, and you just bend down. And that's supposed to stretch out your hips. And I've been doing that, and I've been feeling really good about my golf swing, especially when I'm turning. There's usually a little bit of stiffness as I'm turning in my hips. And I feel like that wasn't there. I'll make another, short content about this and show you the exact exercise. But yeah, you're just sitting here cross-legged. You put your elbow down on your knee and then you just lean forward and you will feel a stretch both on your hamstring as well as on your hips. So that is one of the exercises I've been doing at home. Another thing is, and I mentioned this also in our previous episode in our gift ideas, but I have been using the speed sticks at home. Not the full speed training, but I've been grabbing the heavier and the medium weight sticks and just been simulating golf swings without the ball. So I've been doing that a handful of times, not the typical regimen that they recommend or that I've been doing in the past, but that's another thing that I've been doing. So one thing that I've been doing lately, and I think this is peak golf dad behavior, is working on my footwork while holding my newborn. And I know this kind of sounds ridiculous, but hear me out. And I know there's a lot of golf dads out there that are already doing this. So if you're one of them, please comment below so that I know I'm not alone. But when you've got a baby in your arms, you obviously can't swing a club. But what you can do is you can feel what your feet are doing and how the pressure is shifting. And honestly, it's been surprisingly helpful because when you're holding a baby, your body instinctively wants to find balance. You're not thinking about rotation. You're not really thinking about, the swing plane. You're literally thinking, let's not drop this human in my arm. And so I feel like what you start to feel is what a stable backswing and regular swing should feel like. And I've been really focusing on where do I see the pressure in my feet. And I really, and I have a tendency to sway. I'll be honest. I do sway, especially with my driver more, but even with my irons, I have a tendency to sway. But with the baby in your arms, you don't, sway from one side to the other. And you really stay in balance. So I've been really trying to hone in on what your feet like. And I feel like what I notice is that there's a lot of unnecessary movements and a lot of the weight going to parts of your feet during my golf swing, but it's not doing that when you're holding a baby. And so I think the over rotation, the swaying, the sliding, they disappear when you have a baby in your arm and you have to move efficiently. You have to stay centered. You have to engage your leg. And so I feel like it's like almost like an accidental constraints training. So even though I haven't been touching a club, that subtle footwork practice actually helped a lot when I'm on the course. And I think this last round when I was on the course, that was the only swing thought that I had was don't sway. Remember where the feet pressure was when you were swaying your son and try to mimic that in your golf swing. And I think that was helping out really, really well with my irons, as well as my wedges. Driver is a little different story. I'm not quite used to, because I think my driver swing is just so aggressive and violent. I think I'm still kind of finding how to incorporate that into my driver. But for my irons especially, I feel like that was very, very helpful. So if you're a new dad, you're losing your mind because you can't practice, swing your kid. And I think it's a functional golf training. And I'll keep you guys posted on how the next round goes, which again will probably be in a month and a half. And I'm going to try doing these 3 things and seeing if that still helps my golf swing in my next round out. Maybe again, I'll be shooting in the singles. My handicap right now, is in the singles. So, and as most of you know, or maybe you don't know, your handicap is what you should be scoring on a good round. A lot of people think it's your average round, but no, it's actually when you're scoring well, your best, 8 rounds, I believe. What have you been scoring on average? And so currently I am a single handicap and I'm hoping to remain a single handicap. So we'll see how this training works out, this baby training works out in my next round out. All right. Well, that's enough of Solo Dad Golf Hour with me for today. Time to bring Roy back in, at least through the magic of pre-recording. Last week, we shot a fun segment that didn't make it into episode 8, and it actually turned into way more of a debate than we expected. So to wrap things up, here's that segment. Hope you enjoy. All right, for this last segment, let's do something a little bit fun. Golf Digest brings out these build your ultimate rounds or build your ultimate scramble team type of games on their publication. So I decided to pull one of them and let's do that today. The one that I chose to do today is you have $80 to spend, build your ultimate round. And the $80 is broken down into 3 columns. There is a $50 column, a $30 column, and a $10 column. Actually, they're rows, but whatever. On the $50 row, you can card an ace, you can shoot your career low, or you can play with the pro. On the $30 row, you have perfect weather, no 3 putts, or no waiting. And then on the $10 column, you have no lost balls, striped your first drive, and you birdied the 18. So you can mix and match as many as you want, but you can only have it add up to $80. So, Roy, which ones would you pick to make it be your ultimate round?
I feel like for me, this is really easy. I start with get an ace. All right, so that's $50. Get an ace. So I have $30 left. And so my instinct was to go to the $10 and just like buy the rest of the $10 ones and there we go. But I was like, I don't really care about that. It's like, if we're talking about my ultimate round, right? Like I've played many rounds where I've not lost any balls. I've played many rounds where I striped the first tee and I don't birdie the 18th a lot, but like a birdie on 18 isn't to me like the ultimate round. I've never had a round where I had no 3 putts, not that I can recall. So I was like, perfect weather. We live in Southern California. It's perfect weather 99% of the time. And then no waiting. Yeah, that's kind of nice. But sometimes I prefer like not waiting, but like a little pause, right? When you get to the next tee box, and then it's like it's like 10 seconds of waiting, let's call it, right? Like the guys are driving off or walking off. So like I don't care so much about that. But I think no three putts would be really like killer for my game. So getting an ace, no three putts, I think to me that would be a pretty amazing round. What do you go for?
Well, before we get to that, remember when we played in Vegas last year for my 40th, we had a practice round and we finished in like 3 hours and like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we thought this is too fast. Do you remember that? Because we didn't wait at all. The course was in really good condition. Yeah. And we just blazed through it. And we were like, oh, like it was too fast. Like we didn't really enjoy the round. We were just too busy playing as fast as we can. So yeah, no, I hear you on that. Right. But going to my ultimate round, I feel like mine would be shooting my career low. I actually went back and forth between shooting a career low and playing with the pro. I guess depending on who the pro is, right? But if I can play around with Rory, or I don't know if Tiger can play a full round, but if I could play, a full round with like Tiger, that might be an amazing round too. But for now, I think I'm going with career low because my career best is 2 over. And so a career low would mean that I am flirting with like under, right? And so I would shoot the career low. And I think I would just pick perfect weather because if I am shooting my career low, I don't care if I had a few 3 putts. You can't have that many to, shoot your career low. And everything in the $10 range, the no lost balls, stripe the first drive, birdie the 18th, none of that really matters because if I'm shooting my career low, I'm going to be hitting mostly pars, maybe scattering a few bogeys and birdies here and there, right? Right. So for me, I think that would be my pick. Shoot your career low, perfect weather. And perfect weather for me is very specific. I want it to be 76 degrees. I actually prefer it to be slightly overcast and just have a breeze of wind, right? So
just a touch to cool you down.
Just a touch.
But okay, so let's say for play with a pro, you can pick the pro.
Yeah.
Right. It still doesn't change it. You would still shoot a career low.
Oh man. That would be really, really tough because if I could play with someone like Rory, whose game I've tried to like model my game after, nowhere close, but he's the guy that I would say that I've modeled somewhat, if anyone. It'd be fun to pick his brain. It'd be fun to see some of his swings from, 5 feet away. Like that would be fun too. But if the story that I'm going to tell my grandkids is going to be the day that I shot under par, I think, more than I played with Rory McIlroy. They're going to be like, Rory who?
Right. No, I mean, if they're into golf at all, they'll probably know. Rory's a Hall of Famer, right?
Okay. They'll know Rory, but yeah. I feel like me in my old age, I'm going to be talking about that career low to everyone that'll listen. And I would have more pride in that than the fact that I played with Rory for a round.
That's fair. Yeah. Along those lines, I think that's why I would want an ace, right? Because realistically, I don't know the stat, but most golfers never get an ace, right? Probably one of the hardest things to do in professional sports as a one-off, right? Not like a comparison across like the complexity or difficulty of sports, just like as a single event. So yeah, I don't know that I'm ever going to get one in my life. I hope I do. I hope I get more than one. And it's wild when you hear the pros and they're like, oh, I have like 19. And you're just like, what the hell? But it makes sense if you think about just A, their skill level, and B, like how much they're playing, right? Like the opportunities for them to get it is just that much more than us as well. But I will take that flash in the pan of glory of getting that ace and being able to just hang my hat on that for the rest of my golf career. And I'll shoot my career lows at some point, and yeah, maybe it won't be as sexy or as cool, but I'll get to that point.
What if you card an ace, but then you have a horrible round? It doesn't matter because you carded that ace.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That covers all manner of sins, and it just I could have shot one of the worst rounds of my career, but when I tell the story, I would not tell the score. I would just tell them how I got an ace, right? Like that's the only thing that matters, and it's got to be a legitimate ace, right? Like I've seen debates on the internet of like, if you're playing a par 3 course, does an ace count? And it's like, no, it doesn't. For me, an ace has to be on a regulation 18. It could be slightly shorter. It doesn't have to be a par 72, but it can't be on like an executive course or a pitch and putt or a par 3 course, right? It's got to be on a full round, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what else happens that day. I shot an ace. I'm good. Like I have that check. And then, you get the trophy, and then my dad has one, right? So he just has a trophy in their house of like, the ball with the thing and that his playing partners got for him. And I was like, yeah, he's forever going to have that memory. And that's pretty cool.
What's the closest you've come to shooting an ace?
Inches, probably like 8-9 inches. And it was like, you see like the ball pitch mark, like, right next to the hole, and then it stopped right there. But, I maybe have like a handful of those, right? It was always like, oh, that looks so close, but like, it didn't go in.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't have any, do you?
I don't have any, but I have one where it was a 205-yard par 3, and I hit my 5-iron, and it stuck literally one ball behind, but it stuck to the green and it dug into the green.
Oh,
and it's literally one ball before the pin. Yeah, so that is the closest I've gone. And the issue with me is I hit my iron so high that there's not much roll. If anything, like there might be a backspin if the greens are firmer, but it's not that firm here in Southern California. So a lot of my shots end up just sticking, and there's like no roll. So unless I dunk it, I can't, make a hole in one. Right. But I've had one where on my second shot on a par 5, it's gone in. But it was literally a dunk. Like there was no like roll.
Wait, you have an albatross?
Yeah.
Isn't that even rarer than a hole in one?
Is it?
Wait, hold on. How did I not know this? I'm gonna look.
No,
this
we
up.
we were playing in Palm Springs. It was, I think, my brother and his friends, like one of like this is when they were beginners. And I hit my shot. I think I hit my 5-wood in. And then I heard a dunk, but I thought it hit the flag or something. And then you hear my brother and his friend like yelling. And so, yeah, that is...
An albatross is significantly, and I'm quoting Gemini, significantly rarer than a hole in one, with odds estimated at around 1 in 6 million compared to 1 in 12,500 odds for a hole in one.
No way. I don't have a trophy for this though.
Your brother needs to go find that ball and make you a trophy, because an albatross, like, I think even a lot of pros don't have albatrosses. Like that's how rare they are.
I did not know that. Yeah, the ball's gone.
What a missed opportunity.
I know. Oh, I'm so sad now.
Wild. Yeah. If anybody ever says like, do you have a hole in one? No, I have an albatross. Like that's just so much more impressive. That's like, I didn't even know the odds, and I was like, wait a minute. That's that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, if you think about it, the equivalent is getting a hole in one on a par 4.
I guess so. But it definitely felt like a par 3 because it was like 215 yards out. So that hole in one that I talked to you about before, it was like 205 yards out, right?
Dude, that's a huge deal. Okay, so you don't take hole in one for your build your ultimate round because you already have an albatross. So who cares? Who cares about a hole in one at that point? Yeah, go play with Rory. Go.
Oh man,
that's
I would still like to shoot a hole in one though.
I mean,
yeah.
I think that's still in and of itself like a different bragging right. But it's funny. I played with a tour pro. After he wasn't on the tour anymore at that point, but it was Bob May, who a little bit of a journeyman career. I don't know that he ever won, but he was famous because he took Tiger to overtime, I think, in one of the U.S. Opens. And like, great guy, genuinely nice guy. Really enjoyed playing with him, at least in my interaction with him. It was very interesting to get the insights of a tour pro as you're playing, right? Like, oh, I would hit it over here, or do this, or we asked him once about like how he draws versus fades, and for his driver shots, and he was like, oh, I change where on the face I make impact. And we're like, oh, that's interesting. Like what? And he like literally was like, it's like the width of a T. Like I move it this much versus. And there was this point where like, and that day he actually shot the course record at the course we were playing with. It was somewhere on the outskirts of Vegas. Wow. And so it was very impressive to watch this like effortless, for him it was like nothing, right? To play this round, but it was almost too unrelatable. It was almost like, he's like, oh, I'm moving it by like, millimeters on the club face to shot shape the way that I want it. And I'm like, cool, I'm trying to find the club face. Like, you know what I mean? There's almost this like disparity of, I think the experience is cool, especially if you get somebody like a Rory or a Tiger. That's just like, just having that experience in your life is amazing. Yeah. But I don't know that it's going to be like you're going to walk away with these insights and learnings that are going to change your game, because they're playing at a different level, right? Than what we could even imagine to a certain degree. So it almost becomes like, hey, just enjoy it for what it is. And that in and of itself, I think is actually, if it was like, I would love to play around with Tiger, or even just have Tiger, like, Tiger, you don't have to play, just like ride in the cart next to me and just like, just chat with me around. But that's not as cool of a story to tell as like, oh yeah, I got a hole in one, at least for me.
Yeah. Someone suggested that you and I lock ourselves in a house with a simulator and not leave until we hit a hole in one. How long do you think how long do you think that'll take?
The same hole?
Yeah. Same hole.
Just over and over again.
You just pick one hole and you're hitting over and over again until one of us hits a hole in one.
One night.
You think so?
I think we could do it in, between the two of us, probably 12 hours. I think we could do it in 12 hours.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know. It might take us like a couple days because we're going to get tired.
Yeah.
We're going to have to eat. And I feel like every time we take a break. No, we would. But I was like, every time we take a break, like us individually take a break and come back, you're kind of like starting, like whatever you gained for hitting 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, you're going to lose that. And so for me, I thought it was going to take a lot longer. Hey, if it's only 12 hours, if you think we can do it in 12 hours, it might be something worth doing. We just got to find an Airbnb with a simulator behind the house.
With the golf simulator.
Yeah, which they have tons of in Palm Springs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe family vacations.
I don't know if it could be a family vacation. Because I think the thing is like you can't leave the house. So you can use the restroom, but you're like sleeping in there, you're eating in there. There's a little bit of pressure that comes from not being able to leave either.
I see. Yeah, I don't. Do you really think it would take us a few days?
I think so. But it's also partially, well, on a simulator I have backspin because you could have firmer greens there.
Right. Right. And you can, I mean, are we choosing the pin location? Because there's something about, and I wish I could find it, but there's like certain holes and certain hole locations that have disproportionately higher number of hole-in-ones.
Sure.
Because a lot of it is the green shape, right? And how conducive it is to, funneling the ball towards the hole. Like, yeah, we pick one of those holes. We pick one of those hole locations. And we make it something like 150 yards or shorter, right? So we don't have to take like very aggressive, heavy swings. And it becomes repeatable. With resetting and everything, like a swing takes a minute, right? Like, well, with the, you're seeing it fly and then you're resetting and then doing whatever. You don't have to aim because we'll have the aim already adjusted.
Yeah. Well, you still have to hit straight.
You still have to hit straight, right? So let's say it takes 30 seconds, right? And I think even 30 seconds is probably long. You're still getting off 120 shots in an hour, and so 12 hours, 120 shots, we're getting 1,440 shots.
Yeah.
It's still like worse than the true hole-in-one odds, but if it's the same shot over and over again, like 1 in 1,000, I think we could do 1 in 1,000.
Hey, we maybe we'll try one of these days.
Okay. Or maybe, I was gonna say, you take your simulator, I'll take mine. Right? We set up the same hole on the same course. It just in our respective garages, and we just can't leave our respective garages.
We'll like live stream it between the two of us.
Yeah. Because at some point we're gonna have to feed our kids or do something. So not leaving altogether is probably unrealistic, but can't leave your own house. All right, everyone, that's enough for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms and follow us on your favorite social platforms, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at Track Golf, TRAQ Golf. That's enough getting off track. May your mulligans be many and your 3 putts be few.